Hello and welcome to Spencer's Library. I'm Claudia and Charlie's still not here, so this is just me again. Today I want to talk about the topic of owning books and the dream of a big library. So I think many of us have this dream of a massive library with rows and rows of bookshelves. Even as a child, I imagined myself, being an adult and living in a huge house with a room that was just for books. At my parents' house, we had a lot of bookshelves in the corridor and in the living room, and I had my own bookshelf in the bedroom. The house was and still is filled with books, but then I grew up and moved into a tiny shared flat for university. I couldn't take my books with me, so I basically ended up moving around with just putting my books in a box and carrying what I could with me. Now I live in a foreign country, so again I had to start again with my book collection. Now I'm lucky enough to live in my own house and I have this office here, which is pretty good, somewhere where I can do my work and do my reading as well. But downstairs in the living room where my bookshelf is, I have exactly one IKEA Billy bookcase for my books. Space is running out on it and I haven't got the space to buy a second bookshelf. I also know that I might be due another move again, without going into too much political detail with Brexit happening in the UK and the general direction of the country. My husband and I aren't very keen to stay here for the long term, so we might move back to Germany as soon as I finish my PhD. So that means that once again I'll have to pack up my books and try and take them somewhere else. Except this time I won't be able to just leave some of the books at my parents' house, but I actually have to get rid of the ones that I can't take with me. So I've never gotten rid of a book in my life, ever. I always hated going to the library when I was growing up because I really like owning books and I was awful at returning them to the library. Cats. Once I had to pay a fine of just under €100. Seriously, the librarian thought it was the funniest thing ever, and I'm pretty sure that was the last time I ever went to a library in Germany. Anyway, now I have a problem. I like owning books, but I can't afford to hold on to them. So one of my first goals for this year is to reduce the number of books that I own for the first time in my life. I want to go through my shelf and take out all the ones, for example, that I gave 2 stars to on Goodreads. I'm not going to want to reread them. That's an easy way to get rid of some books that I won't miss. But more importantly, I have to let go of that idea of having a collection of books to show off, like it says anything about how well read I am or intellectual. It's just a stupid idea. I log all the books that I read on Goodreads and I write them down in my journal as well, so I already have a record of it. There's no reason for me to hold on to this kind of physical measure of the books that I read. I really need to move away from the idea of having an all-including book collection of everything that I've ever read and move towards the concept of what I call a curated bookshelf, like a best of Claudia's books rather than all of Claudia's books. But we all know that books are sentimental objects too, so they hold so many memories that are entirely unrelated to the stories within them, and some of my best memories connected to books are to books that are bad. Back to my goals for this year. I want to get rid of books that aren't connected with those memories and that I just don't enjoy reading. I don't really have a spending problem when it comes to books because I rarely spend more than £1 or £2 on a book in a charity shop, so I will continue to shop there for secondhand books. The difference is that if I don't enjoy a book, I will just donate it back to the charity shop. I've also subscribed to Audible this month, so that will help me access books in a new way without having to get them on paper. I also use my Kindle regularly, mostly in bed and while I'm travelling, so I usually get classics that are out of copyright for free on there, but sometimes you get really good deals on contemporary books as well. As for new books, I am registered to the local library, and I also have access to a university library, which of course has some fiction and lots of non-fiction. I've grown up a bit since I had to pay that €100 fine, so I'm pretty confident going back to public libraries. And hopefully I'll be getting, some new releases and just other books from there as well. I still plan to buy books that I do want on my curated bookshelf. So for example, I'm looking for a really good edition of The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, which I've read. It's one of my favourite classic novels, but I only have it in a complete Works of Oscar Wilde edition. If I find that in a charity shop or online or wherever, then I will buy it. Otherwise, I'll stick to ebooks and audiobooks, charity shop buys, and libraries. The thing is, if I really like a book that I've borrowed or have listened to or read on my Kindle and I want it on my shelf, then I can just go ahead and buy it. It's kind of a shame that Charlie's not here, because I really want her opinion on this. I really want to hear her side of things, but I also want to hear yours. So let me know what you think of book collecting, owning books, and kind of the idea of a library versus a curated bookshelf. Thank you for listening. Bye.